Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Georgiana with Expressions Craft Studio, and today I'm going to show you something I've been playing with. I've been using my Husking board to make different sizes and types of flower petals with very few changes in the configuration of the Husking board. So this is the one we're going to be doing today, and it varies from these guys in a couple of ways. In this one it doesn't have this center loop here. In this one it doesn't have these two smaller loops are different, where they're larger and longer in here. This one is the same as this one here, except let me see, that's not showing up very well. Let's try that. No. Where did that black piece of paper go? Oh, well, that's not the black piece of paper, but it will work. Alright, let's try this again. So these two, I actually used the same configuration on the Husking board. The difference is I wrapped this one while it was still on the pegs, and this one I took off the pegs to wrap so I could get a tighter loop on it. Whereas this one I had a lot of extra, and all I did at the end was I just kind of pinched it up and then squished it down a little bit. And you could even glue that down if you like that look. I just haven't gone any further with that one at this time. But this is the one we're going to be doing right now. So it does not have that center loop, that short loop in the center like this one does. Otherwise it's the same configuration on the Husking board. So we're going to make one more of those. Slide this back in here where we can see it. And to do that, you're going to need, I'm using 2 strips because my strips are 10.5 inches. So I'm using 2 strips of white, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue them together. First I'm going to rip off the ends, just tear a little piece off of each one before I glue it together. And the reason for that is I feel like it makes a softer seam where they come together. And you know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe that's all in my head, but it works for me, so that's how I'm going to do it. So just kind of spread the glue out a little bit and then press it down. Make sure my edges are flush with each other. And then for me the hard part begins, because this is where I struggle a little bit. I'm just pressing to make sure that glue's dry. So whether you're right-handed or left-handed, doesn't matter. You can start on either side. I'm just going to skip this pin here. Whoops, I pulled it right out of view. I'm going to skip this pin here. We're not using it. So how about I just pull it out of there? You want to leave yourself a little tail to wrap around this main pin. So how big that tail is depends on you. If you can work with a smaller one, then by all means work with a smaller one. I found that I struggle if it's too small, and I end up just pulling it out of there. So once I've got that wrapped, I'm going to glue it. So I'm going to glue it, and then I'm going to talk about something you may have noticed here. Oops, I want to actually glue it down here. And, oh, here we go. So get that to glue, that glue to set. We're going to give it a little pinch with our tweezers. I started to say pliers, but tweezers is what we're using today. Give that another little pinch. That one's okay. So you may have noticed these little round circles on these 3 upper pegs. This is an idea I've been toying with for a while, and I have searched and searched high and low using different words and phrases and terminology, and I have not found anything like it, and except for jewelry making, for the wire wrap stuff. But those, at least the ones I have, and I've showed them before, the pegs on those don't actually fit in these holes very well. They're either too loose or they're too big. So I just made myself some sizers myself. I'd take a strip. I did some with half a strip. I did, like this one is half a strip. It's a little smaller. And then a full strip, then a strip and a half, and then 2 strips. And they're just basically, for me, they're a nice way to get a nice fat loop on the end of my teardrop shape. Or, you know, loop, whatever you want to call it. And so far I'm really happy with the way it works. Now, like I said, there may be a product out there, and if there is, please, please, please tell me what it is, because I would love to know. Like I said, I haven't been able to find anything, and I've done multiple searches on multiple occasions, so there's probably a couple hours invested, and I just haven't been able to find anything. But I find them really useful, and you could just make them yourself. So, you know, there's probably going to be somebody who'll come up with it now and make them and mass market them, but that's okay, because you can make them yourself. You don't need to buy them from anybody, even if you know who. So now we're going to start. So we've got our first loop done around the center, 2 center pins with our extra big, I don't know even what to call it. It's a enlarger, a disc enlarger, I don't know, loop enlarger, I don't know. So we're going to work to the left, because that's the way I did it, but if you wrapped yours the other way, you can work to the right. So we're going to go up and we're going to go around this shorter pin on the left. We'll pick that up so you can see. And I glue every time I go around. So I just add a little dot to the bottom here. Wrap it. I make sure it's flush as good as I can, and then we're going to go up on the other side around the other short pin. Okay, and then we're going to glue again. It's a lot of gluing, but it's worth it to me to save the frustration of trying to have to put all these loops back inside one another. All right, so now we're going to go up on this outside, around this outside little disc spacer, enlarger, enhancer, whatever you want to call it. If you have a great name for it, I'd love to know, because I need something to call it besides all those. So once again, we've gone around and we've glued, and we're going to go around this last one, and we're going to put a little glue at the bottom. And this works out pretty well, because this is where our seam is. So just make sure that glue's set. I'll leave that down there. And once it is, you can take this off, and be careful. I need to glue my spacers so they don't come apart, but I haven't done that yet. So you could kind of push that out from the center and work its way out, but you might want to glue them if you do make some. All right, so now we've got our loops here. Let's see, does that show up better? There you go, that's a little better. So I do like to start off with just a tiny little pinch at the very bottom, just to kind of shape that part where we glued everything, and then you're just going to wrap it. And you can wrap it once and cut it off, or you can wrap it twice and cut it off. I just usually use almost the whole strip. I got that a little tighter there than I wanted it. And that's the other thing. You can make it as tight or as loose as you like. It seems to be kind of, yeah, that's a little too tight. There we go. Let's try that. And so I end up wrapping it 3 times and then cutting off the little bit that's left over. And you can glue after each one of those if you want. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. I'm going to give it another little pinch. Actually, I need to pull that up a little, I think. No, I don't. Just push that up a little. There we go. And then I'm going to cut off my excess here. And you can tear it if you like. It's just easier for me when I'm holding it to use my scissors rather than try to turn it in a way that I can tear it. Okay, that's a little more than I needed. Okay, so I'm going to set this off to the side. So here we have all of our petals, and I think I ended up with 8. I have a center that I made out of a extra wide piece that was left over from when I cut my strips with my Cricut, and so I'm just going to use that in the center. Now I am trying to decide, let me push that all up a bit. I am trying to decide if I want to add a little bit of color. And I think I do, just a little bit of a lighter pink. So I'm going to pause this for a second while I dig out my chalk. Last time I used ink, but I don't even remember if I showed you that. But we're going to use chalk today, so hold on just a moment. Alright, I've got some chalks here. I'm going to pick a color, and I'm using a Q-tip today. You could also use a little makeup applicator, you know, like an eyeshadow applicator, or even a sponge. There's any number of ways you could do this. You might even be able to rub this on the chalk itself. Let me pick one here that I don't really care about. And let's just see. Yeah, it's a little awkward. I don't think I'd do it that way. So I'm going to go back to my Q-tip, and I'm just going to rub it on here. Now you could scrape some off if that's easier for you, but I'm just going to rub some on my Q-tip, and it actually is kind of scraping a little bit of chalk dust on there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to zoom back in, and I'm just going to brush it toward the center. And I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually kicking a little bit of dust onto the mat there. So it's very subtle, and you could even then go around, or you could go around the outside instead, or you could do both and leave a little space in the middle. That is going to be strictly up to you. I'm going to see if it'll pick up this dust in my Q-tip here. Yep, and we'll just go do the next one really quick. So this is just to give it a little hint of color. Get a little bit more chalk on my Q-tip. Maybe make that a little darker because it will rub off a little bit. And we'll do the next one. Pick up that dust. See if we can rub some in this way. Go back to our chalk. Pick up a little bit more. I think that the makeup applicators would work best just because they're kind of made to hold the powder a little bit better. They're a little bit more porous. Is that the word I want? But almost everybody has Q-tips in their home, even though they tell us not to use them in our ears. I've been doing it for years and never had a problem, but you know, just takes that one time, I guess. So we're going to pick up a little bit more chalk. Just kind of spinning the Q-tip as I go to get it all the way around the Q-tip so I can just keep on working. And you can color these as much or as little as you want. You can use ink, which is what I used last time. I have another thought. I don't want to talk about it just yet because I don't want somebody beating me to the punch, and I don't know how well it would work, to be perfectly honest. I'm getting a little more chalk here. But there may be a surprise in our future. If I can take a few minutes to play with it, I might have a way to add this really fascinating little addition to it. Nope, a little more chalk. And like I said, this is going to be really subtle. And some of this will probably even wipe off when I'm done. There's my kitty. Okay, that's all of them. So let me get a little baby wipe here. She hears me talking to myself, and I guess she thinks she needs to worry about me. She's standing right outside the door looking at me, but she won't come in. There we go. All right. So I'm going to set these chalks off to the side. And clean out my glue bottle tip. And we're going to start lining these up. Got a little bit of cotton fuzz on that one. Oh, did I forget one? I did, it looks like. Nope, that's got the loop in the center. That's a different one. Okay. Well, 7 petals fits, but when I put my center in, it'll need to be bigger. So let's add my flower center, which was just one I had previously made with some of my leftover strips. Okay, so again, this is where I have it. I don't know why I don't get it out. This is where your cork board and your pens would come in really handy. I wonder if I need to maybe just kind of mush those back out. Oh, that glue set, so that's not happening. Okay, well, we're just going to do our best here. Okay, I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm just going to add some glue to the very tip. And I'm just going to gently slide it back in there where it goes. So I say. Alright, so I'll just on to the next one. And again, we're just going to gently slide that in where it goes. Let me zoom out just a little bit. We're just going to gradually work our way around. Alright, on to the next one. Now, since I did not color the backs of these, just the fronts, you will want to make sure if you do it that way that you, when you glue them down, you glue the right side, or the colored side. The chalked side, let's put it that way. A little bit of glue. I'm actually using a lot of glue. I'm hoping it'll dry nice and sturdy. Just gently push that in. Do this one. See, I didn't glue that one and it's kind of coming apart there. I didn't glue the 3 outer loops is what I should say. The 3 wraps. Okay. There we go. Take that one off. This might be our last one. Can't remember if we did that other one or not. I might have one more to do. So I'm just holding that center down in place and pushing that in. Oh yeah, we got one more to do. Okay. Now I should have put a piece of wax paper under here because I am using a lot of glue. But I didn't because I haven't cut any more. I need to do that. Maybe I'll do that this evening if I can remember. Okay, so we're just going to let all of our glue dry there. Got that unstuck from my mat. Just going to push it up here a little bit more. Enlarge it. Now the other thing, and I haven't measured it out yet to make sure it'll work, but the other thing you could do here, just trying to get this onto this black piece so it'll show up a little better. The other thing you could do, what was I going to say? Oh, you could use multiple colors. We did some before, the tricolor flower, and so what you do is you glue your different strips together and then, you know, wrap. So you kind of want to make it a little even. What I would do in that case, I would go back to like this one here, and I would add another loop somewhere in the middle, so that I have 1, 2, 3, and then I'd add another loop on either side. So I'd do 1, 2, 3. So if you're using 3 colors, I'd try to keep it so that there's 3 on each side, or 3 colors on each side and 3 down the middle. That's just me. I like symmetry. You know, whatever works for you is perfectly fine. But this is nice and colorful, and I was able to use up one of my previous centers. You can barely see the chalk on the center there. It does show up better in person. And I think I'm going to fluff my fringe a little bit now that I think it's fairly dry. Let's try it with this. That way I'm not getting my hands all over everything. Yep, just spin that around a little bit. And maybe fluff a little to the center even. Because I used quite a long strip, if I remember correctly, when I made this piece of fringe, so there's extra. Except it's not wanting to cooperate here. Let me see if I can push that center back down. Okay. And maybe it's just a little too short to do what I'm trying to get it to do, which is lay over the center more. There we go. I think that'll work. So just fix these outside edges a little. Lay them back out. Now I did figure, I don't believe I've shared this yet, I did figure out a way to make this fringe with the Cricut. It's not exactly new. It's been available for larger flowers, like the type you'd put on the wall, for quite a while. But I did do my own for smaller flowers, and it does work, which is kind of nice. Especially if you like little fringes, you know, small spaces between your cuts. There we go. I think I've played with that enough. Now it will need some Wink of Stella in the center. So let's just get that out. Give it a little shake. And let's see here. Last time I had quite a bit of the glitter on the brush portion. I'm trying not to get it all over the fringe. I just want it in the center. Should have done it before I fluffed my fringe. There you go. Just a little bit of sparkle. I had a delphinium in Anchorage when I lived in Anchorage, Alaska. And it literally had sparkles on the petals of the flowers. I don't know how to describe it. I'd never seen anything like it. It was kind of a blue and lavender delphinium. I don't remember the name of it, but it literally looked like it had little sparkles in the petals. And I don't know if it's because of the kind of, you know, ground it grew in or what, but I just thought it was beautiful. So anyway, there you go. There's our flower from using our husking board and our little spacer discs, for lack of a better word. You may even be able to find beads, actually, come to think of it, that would work. I don't know. I hadn't thought of that until just now. But I mean, the whole point is make your coils. Now I will say, when I tried it with my needle tool, the hole was too small. When I tried to wrap it around or use the slotted tool, the hole was too small. So what I ended up doing was, I have a slightly larger slotted tool. I don't know where it's at now. was my first one, and I had bent it out a little bit to make room for the cardstock when I was using it. So it was just a little bit bigger around, and that worked perfect. So you may have to play with it a couple times to make sure you find the right tool. I'm looking for, this one's it. I don't know if you'll be able to see that. Yeah, there you go. See how it's just splayed out a little bit there? So that one worked really well to make these, and they're still a little bit loose on the pegs, but they're tight enough that they're not going to go anywhere until you go to lift everything off, and then they do. Anyway, I think I've rambled enough. I will show you, in case I hadn't shown you already, this is the piece. I'm only showing you because I mentioned it. Cut from the Cricut. What my idea was to make, I don't know if you've seen those little, it would kind of look like a barber pole because it would swirl around. It doesn't really work on these little bitty flowers, though. Not that I've been able to get it to anyway. But what I have done is I've just folded this in half and glued it, straight across on the other side, just the edges. My idea would have meant you had to kind of offset it a little bit, but it just, again, didn't work. Anyway, so you glue it, you fold it in half, just glue the edges, and then if you want, you can just cut the folded edge off a little bit, and that'll give you fringe. Or you can leave it folded, and it just makes a thicker fringe. So I will get around to doing that someday and showing you guys what I'm talking about. If I haven't already, I might have shown it in one of the other videos. I can't remember. Don't get old, people. Don't get old. Or maybe do, Anyway, there we go. There's our flower. Give it a little bit centered. And I thought this one was a lot of fun. Like I said, if by using the white, you can then color the petals. And even with some of the other colors, if you've got ink, I don't know that chalk would show up on the, darker than white colors, but ink certainly would. So you could always just ink them. There's just different ways to do stuff, so use what you have, be creative, think outside the box. Anyway, until next time, I've rattled on long enough. This is Georgiana with Expressions Craft Studio. Thank you again. Thank you to the newest subscribers. I appreciate you joining us, and let me know what you think. I think it's a really ingenious little idea there, those little bumpers or enlargers or whatever you want to call them. Anyway, next time. Until then, happy crafting.